All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 4 between DeMusliM and TheViper here. Spawning in on the left side in the color red is going to be DeMusliM representing Team Liquid with the Abbasid Dynasty. And on the right side, another Abbasid player out there. Who do we have, Aussie?
Representing GL, playing in the color blue, also playing as the Abbasid Dynasty. We have got the one, the only, TheViper.
Okay, let's take a look
Exciting
at these
matchup.
maps. Yeah,
Exciting matchup. This is I know that often when people talk about mirrors, they sort of roll their eyes a little bit. For me, my number 1 is China. We just got to witness that glory. But for me, number 2, France. Number 3, probably the Abbasid Dynasty. I think this is a dynamic matchup, and primarily just because of those camel archers. That's really going to set things apart. It's going to change it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see maybe some extended feudal ages here coming out. One of the common theories that people sort of have is, do you go for that third town center? Do you stick it on the second town center and go for a fast castle? What is going to be the way that you play it today? So we'll have a look and see if there's any difference between these opening build orders here. But what do you suspect we're going to be seeing out here today, Lidakor?
Ooh, it's an interesting question because, as you pointed out, it's possible that either of these players will add a third town center. On the other hand, we could see very similar approaches to what we have seen in the previous game, game number 3, where both players will try to play a little bit more standard, just go for that standard 2-town center build, and then try to put up some level of aggression to potentially punish a 3-town center build from the opponent. The interesting aspect of the game will be that many of the berries are in that middle area, like right next to that central sacred site. So controlling that part of the map is going to be essential for either of those players, and I feel like whoever gets that early map control could leverage those berries that are scattered across the map a little bit better, and that could be a massive boost over your opponent. So I really feel like going for 3 town centers is an option over here for both, but honestly, if they want to play it safe, I can see both players just trying to play 2 town centers and play for map control, try to deny the berries from the opponent.
Yeah, that could be an interesting way to play it. One of the things to note is that there doesn't seem to be back berries for either player. I mean, we've got back berries that spawn in, but there's nothing that's really behind the town center. Everything's moving towards that center of the map, promoting aggression out there. Sometimes you can get fortunate and have like berries back in the corner, berries on both sides back in the corner, and it'll be really nice for you. But not today, so that means probably a little bit more aggression than a little bit less, I would suspect. But I'm going to ask you, Lidakor, how many town centers do we see out today? When the game ends, how many town centers are alive? Let's go with that one. No, when the game ends, how many town centers have been completed? Let's go with that.
I'm actually going to go with 4. I can see more happening, but I feel like based on the previous game and based on how standard-ish they played, even in the China mirror, I would go with 4, so 2 apiece.
All right, well, I could go the easy answer and be like, well, I think there's going to be 5, but I'm going to go big brain. I'm going to go with 8.
Okay.
Hear me out.
Go
okay.
big or go home.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Okay, so basically, a town center, it acts as an economic building, but for the Abbasid Dynasty, it can also act as a little bit of a military building as well when you think about it, because these villages that you're paying for, they're quite cheap, and they act as obviously like resource collection, but they can be pretty decent to tank, kind of the same way that you've seen scouts tank up. We've seen DeMusliM, he memes a little bit, he likes to meme. We've seen him go for like this villager-only strategy. Sure, it might have been against like a plastic league player, but he went for quite literally villagers only. He made like, I think 8 town centers or something like that. And when you think about it, they're actually a pretty effective source of siege, just because they've got the same amount of siege as every other unit, and you only pay 25 food for them. So it makes a lot of sense. They're the second most effective source of siege in the game. The only thing more effective than them is the villagers that come from the Palace of Swabia.
Yeah, that's a great point that you bring up. I would be somewhat surprised if DeMusliM went very heavy on that, but it's going to be more about the late game aspect, because really, one of the things that you can consider, as you said, is that it's very easy to afford losing those villagers with the Abbasids because it's so cheap to remake them, especially if you have more than 2 town centers. So you can indeed decide to just pull some villagers, burn down the siege weapons of the opponent, or go for very aggressive castles. Castles that would be risky for some other civilizations. You can still say, hey, I can afford to lose 15, 20 villagers over here. I can go for a more ambitious castle than I could with other civilizations. So, indeed, that aspect of this game could indeed be a factor, that the players value the villagers a little bit less, so to say, than they would in some other civilization matchups.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. And we already see big numbers coming out for both of these players with regard to this.
I lost that bet.
You lost the bet? Why do you say that?
Because,
Is it because DeMusliM's gathering up more than 300 stone?
Yeah, that's it. It's going to be at least 5 town centers on the map. I'm sad.
He's
I'm
moving
disappointed.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I think the main reason is kind of the idea. So essentially, by the time, if you go for 3 town centers against an enemy who goes 2 town center fast castle, you're always going to be able to hold against them. Or technically, you should be able to hold against them. Just because when you consider the fact that your enemy, sure, they're going to be a little bit faster than you, but they're also going to be walking across the entire map. So it makes a lot of sense in this matchup to just go for the 3 town centers like everybody else. But then, it's kind of that whole concept of keeping up with the Joneses. If they've got 3 town centers, well, I've got to have 3 town centers myself. And then, well, maybe your enemy knows that you're going for a 3rd town center. So do they dare think about a 4th town center? And this is where you sort of get this ludicrous amount of town centers that might come out. I'm going with 8 TCs this game. I reckon we might see some sort of number in that region, but we'll have to see how players look to play it. As upgrades have now come through, fresh foodstuffs and wheelbarrow. 2nd town center is being dropped down. DeMusliM gathering up that stone for the 3rd one.
So is Viper. So it's indeed an evolution of this meta, because going back just a couple of months, you could see the Abbasid mirrors being 2 versus 3 town centers at maximum. And the concept was that, hey, I have 3 town centers, you only have 2, so I will have an advantage, because the meta, it was 2 town centers. But now, as you pointed out, now that if both players are thinking, hey, my opponent will try to gain an advantage over me by going for 3 town centers, I can go for even 4 potentially. And scouting is obviously going to be a key element of this one. Checking out how much stone the opponent has mined from his stone mine is probably your best confirmation. Viper dropping TC number 3 now. He's still mining a bit of a stone, and DeMusliM loses the only scout he has. That's a nightmare for him. He's going to be playing completely blind, and you can see on the left side of the screen, he immediately queues up a new one. He knows that he needs to know what Viper is doing here.
You know what else he queues up one of? A town center. He queues up another town center. He's going for 4 town centers. I'm not even kidding you. He's going for 4 town centers. I told you it was possible that it could happen. We are now seeing him climb towards 200 stone. Oh, this is one of those rare times where Drongo's right. And it feels good, man. It feels good, but holy crap, these guys are
someone clip this, because this is going to be the only time that you're writing Golden League.
We're going to have to change his name to Aussie Righto. Maybe not. Yeah, now Viper, look at Viper. Now Viper's on stone as well. Does he realize that there might be a 4th TC? And he's like, hold on, I got to keep up with the Joneses over the other side of the map. Oh, okay, my Lord. We have got a bit, I mean, this is just, coming back to what we were talking about, right? Like, 2 town center fast castle loses to 3 town center fast castle, because the Abbasid dynasty are the only civ that pays 25 food for their villagers. And so basically it means that the villager, or the food drain that you're getting from that 3rd town center isn't significant enough to offset your defensive bonus that you're able to establish from being on your side of the map, and your enemy got to push across and kill you. And so now it develops, right? Because, okay, well, if you know all of a sudden that your enemy can't do 2 town center fast castle against your 3 town center fast castle, well, maybe they're just going to go 3 town center fast castle. Okay, well, what beats 3 town center fast castle?
4. That is always the answer. And one of the other aspects of this one, obviously, is that the build-up, the army build-up of Abbasids is actually really slow. It's not like the Chinese, which can just supervise their buildings to flood out a bunch of units. Abbasids take time to build up their army. So if you decide to go for, let's say, 2 town centers against 3, and you decide to be the aggressor, by the time you really get like a meaningful army going, and with you not having access to like feudal age knights whatsoever, so you're restricted to just horsemen, spearmen, archers, by the time you get a meaningful army up, your opponent really can leverage that 3rd town center, potentially even go to castle age faster than you. So there's also a lot of safety associated with adding those extra town centers, because if you're the aggressor, you're definitely risking the possibility of falling behind in castle age timing and just failing with that push.
Yeah, 100%. One of the interesting things that we see, Viper looking to drop outposts up, but DeMusliM going to be looking to wall him out, wants to prevent any sort of interesting, sneaky shenanigans coming through from him. But that 4th town center about to be dropped down. He's going for 5, isn't he?
Yeah, he has to be going for 5. Or he just completely forgot about the stone miners. But DeMusliM walling this off, this is going to be the craziest lip in a game I've ever seen. I'm going to it's like, you're trying to hype this setup, and it's like, okay, a lot of aggression, a lot of fighting early on, and it's like, okay, so 5 town centers on a map that's supposed to be at least semi-open.
Oh my god, dude. Now, this is something that I've seen DeMusliM play this matchup before, so what he looks to do, typically, drop down a keep and just play defensive with crossbows. So that's the way that he looks to play it. So I guess the other alternative is that he might be spending that stone on a keep, but very, very Oh,
That has
I
to
know
be...
what happened.
Oh,
Yeah, he shot the
tower.
boar. He shot the boar with the tower, and then he killed the villager.
What? That is like 6 head from Viper. That is an
Oh.
unbelievable move. Indeed, for those of you that don't know, the boar is always going to attack the closest target regardless of who aggroed it, so it's different from the wolves. But look at that, indeed. Viper coming in cheeky here. Viper?
Does he know? I don't think he knows. He doesn't
He lost
know.
his scout. Wait a sec. DeMusliM doesn't even have a scout. He lost his
He
initial
lost
scout.
his second scout?
Or he cancelled it.
Oh, my lord. This could be perfect because remember, this is DeMusliM.
Oh, he's gonna be distracted even. Because these camel archers are coming in from the right side. DeMusliM is gonna be like, oh shoot, I have to volley this in. He's going to focus everything in here. The perfect surprise is in here for Viper. I love this. You get the feel that you're watching a Mountain Pass game rather than a Lipany game.
Yeah, it does start to feel like that, but we now see that plenty of resources are getting stacked up there for DeMusliM. Not a lot of stone in the bank now, only 463. He's going to need a bit more than that if he wants to drop down a keep. That 4th town center going to be firing off towards the camel archers, and DeMusliM going to be thinking a little bit about playing into that castle age. We can see barracks actually going to be going down for DeMusliM on the backside here, so a bit of an interesting adaptation, not something we always see. He may be aware of that stable behind him. I'd be curious to know. Obviously, I'd love to check his vision, but Age of Empires 4 being a AAA game wouldn't actually show us whether he scouted that or not.
There's no way he knows. Like, the reaction would be completely different. Okay, now he knows. Now he knows that Lancer's showing up. Viper is going to show his hand with the tower and the Lancer showing up, and I can imagine the panic that DeMusliM is in with this.
Yeah, he's probably thinking that's not good. Those, how did they get behind my wall? Ah, there must be a proxy somewhere. But now that Lancer getting fired down on the multiple town centers on this wood line. Viper's like, I gotta hightail it out of here. That's too many arrows for a guy like me. But now we see the archers actually going to be coming out for DeMusliM here. So looking to go heavily into archers as well as spearmen. So it could be just sticking with like your standard archaic comp, you know, spearmen plus archers, you know, phalanx spears. They're pretty decent.
Yeah, it's a great comp for the Abysses. They do have good upgrades for both of those unit types. Obviously, the Phalanx, as you said, for the Spearmen, and then the composite bows for the Archers. So it is a composition that the Abysses love. And now, guess what? Those towers actually start becoming a factor because that Springald can reach some of those gold miners, might even be able to reach those more distant berries. And Viper also has a Springald Tower and other berries as well, and this is problematic for DeMusliM. He has an extra town center over Viper, but guess what? He is still behind in villager count because he's losing some, and more importantly, he's losing map control despite having all those walls up, and Viper's got enough stone for a castle. I wonder if he wants to go aggressive with that castle.
Yeah, he could look to place that down on the opposite side of the base. It could be very difficult for DeMusliM here. But keep in mind, DeMusliM is going to be very boomy in this position. He's going to be having a decent economy to try and keep up with the things that Viper's doing. But it's just going to be a safe castle. Dropping it down in the center of the map here. Secures the berries, secures the gold mine, and secures the sacred site as well as this relic as well.
Yeah, big win there for Viper. In fact, speaking of relics, he's already picking up the relics, and you get the feel that Viper right now is having a slightly better build order, so to say, because DeMusliM wasn't able to capitalize on that extra 4th town center that he has added. On the other side, Viper is going to have the relics, and he's going to have most of the berries lying all across the map over here. So you see, he's securing the ones in the middle, he has the ones on the north, and he has towered some of the berries on the Muslim side.
Yeah, now it looks like Viper going to be trying to push out towards this ram. You can see the ram coming in with intent. Looking to take down that outpost, a couple of units on the backside as well. Still we see outposts. I'd love to take a look at Viper's line of sight and just get an idea of exactly how much of the map he sees right now, because I suspect it is a very high amount.
He sees just enough. He sees all the berries out there, and that's going to be concerning for the DeMusliM, because we talked about this one. You really don't want to transition into farms at this point, and I see farms being dropped by the DeMusliM. That could be a devastating deficit for an Abbasid mirror here, because Viper is going to have the sacred sites. He's going to have the berries all across the map. And a farm transition at this stage of the game is not something that the DeMusliM wants. Viper is also at 91 villagers, so this very eco-focused game will turn into an absolute slaughterhouse in a matter of minutes, with the players finally unleashing the military production that's fueled by that economy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's just so many villages out here for these players. Barely any military on the map. We're talking about 30 population of military between for both of these players. But now we can see DeMusliM really starting to think about getting these upgrades through. Trebuchet going to be coming out. Battering ram going to be looking to take down this stable. I don't know whether the villager is still behind enemy lines, but I suspect it's probably working its magic somewhere.
Ooh, Viper could be thinking fast imp here, actually. If you take a look at those resources, cheeky little play. He's putting up some pressure on DeMusliM, forcing him to make some battering rams, forcing him to clean up those towers. And behind this one, thinking about Imperial, and obviously that will give a massive power spike to him. He's only behind by 10 villagers, but he does have the relics, he has some extra berries. Viper's position here is actually very nice.
Counterattack up towards the north. It's going to get spotted out by the Viper, and Monk going to be running back with the news, but unfortunately it's not the good word, it is bad word. There are enemy units nearby and everybody must evacuate the dance floor, and indeed they do. Now looking to turn his attention towards the third town center of the Viper, and villagers going to be jumping inside. No battering ram here today, going to be able to take down this town center, but definitely going to be able to cause a bit of a reaction here from Viper and look to try and distract him, keep units on the enemy side of the map, and hopefully keep the aggression away from his own base.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's also going to slow down Viper's Imperial over here. We do have some crossbows in an army there for the Muslims. I don't think that Viper has the army here to beat this, but at least he's going to secure his position, and he's on the way to Imperial. He's going up to the military wing, so he's going to have the infantry upgrades for him. We could see some camel archers being mixed in, because in those very long games, those late game camel archers, those guys mean business. So that is definitely an option as well for Viper to go for in Imperial.
Beautiful little unit mix-up here for DeMusliM as well. You can see him just slicing through all of those units. He's got archers together with the crossbows, and that's going to be a very effective counter to the composition that Viper's got. A heavily armored composition as it continues to fall back and kites away. He's going to be distracting Viper with this, but Viper hitting Imperial now. He's going to be looking pretty healthy, pretty happy as he continues to get upgrades. We see both players actually getting a very heavy economic upgrades, with DeMusliM getting all of his economic upgrades at the same time.
Yeah, but DeMusliM is not going into Imperial, and that could be somewhat concerning. It looks like he has a trebuchet up shelling Viper's keep in the middle, but Siege Workshop already coming in for Viper, and the biggest power spike that you could possibly get in this matchup right now if you're Viper could be the Bombards, because there isn't really a huge standing army on the battlefield for either of these players. So having a couple of Bombards out there could be massive just to start taking on buildings, and this is the concern for DeMusliM, those camel archers harassing gold miners, tower denying the berries. He has to deal with all these aggressive and annoying little proxy bases from Viper, and that is buying so much valuable time for Viper here.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But one thing to note is that he does have the walls up. So now that the proxy bases have been, pretty much cleaned up, there's a couple blue dots behind enemy lines, but for the most part, he's looking pretty safe. We can see, what is that villager doing? Viper actually just running a villager through the base of DeMusliM right now. I'm not sure if you guys saw that. He was just carrying a bunch of wood. It looked like he was about on 30 health, but unfortunately, I think that villager probably going to be going down. A new age begins. Viper reaching the Imperial age as that villager. It's making its way through the base of DeMusliM. I can see it just running through the base. Yeah, right there. Look at her go. She's on 3 health. Go, Sally. You can do it. Carrying her wood. I think she's got... How much wood does she have in the bag? Does she have 10 wood or 15 wood? This might have been a misclick coming out from him. Can we click? Oh, no. She drops it. She drops it.
F's in the chat.
Poor Sally. She was so young. She'd been through a lot. She set up a stable. She had a good business as an outpost guard. It was going well for her, but unfortunately, times change.
Times change indeed, especially with the ages changing. And Viper, up to Imperial, is going to start adding Quoverins, and I'm starting to think about Quoverins being used as one of your mainline push units. We have seen, I think, Beastie use like mass Quoverins before, and it turned out to be rather effective. So I can see that being a thing here for Viper. Insufficient wood issue coming in here for him, though. He won't be able to repair that cost any further, but it looks like the traps are back, so the keep will probably stay alive a little longer.
Yeah, rare to see that coming up for him, but Culverin coming out, though. So, yeah, you mentioned that we did see a mass Culverin sort of strategy coming out from Beastie Cutie. So maybe Viper looking to try and take a leaf out of Beastie Cutie's book here and get those Culverin out, but a great little play to get it out nice and early. Definitely going to be a power spike for him in the Imperial Age. And keep in mind, DeMusliM's still not up to Imperial yet. He is struggling. He's on 200 population. Viper only on 176, so he's going to be able to push out here. Elite upgrades still coming through for the Viper. You can see that he's got the Elite Spearmen as well as the Elite Men-at-Arms. Also with that military wing looking to try and take down a little bit more health on those units, but going to be able to continue pushing through. Look at the crossbows on the backside here for DeMusliM. Great job just completely slicing through the front line of Viper. Now Viper going to have to fall back here as the Culverin definitely going to be coming up short, unfortunately. Losing its life. Not enough health on that bad boy, and now the keep going to be under threat.
And obviously, Viper spending a ton of resources on Imperial Age means that he didn't spend those resources on Army. And if you look at DeMusliM, he has the resources for Imp now, and he also has a very strong standing army. 40 crossbows, talk about, also some men-at-arms in the mix in there. Viper is only at 154 population, DeMusliM is PopCab, so it's an easy decision for him to go into Imperial. And you get the feel that DeMusliM is now gaining momentum, whereas for Viper, he's struggling with resources. Insufficient food once again, but the gold count isn't spectacular, food count isn't spectacular either, and DeMusliM might gain momentum just when he needs it.
Yeah, this is looking good for DeMusliM. He's played this opening well. The fact that he's gone into that extra town center hasn't really bought him much, realistically. It obviously gives him a little bit more safety with regard to raids. Basically means that if he does lose villages late in the game, he's going to be able to replace them a bit quicker. But that's really about it. The difference between these two guys hasn't been that big. And Viper's got the Relic lead. He's up 4-1 relics. He's also got the Sacred Side advantage. So you definitely give the favor over to Viper. But still, you see DeMusliM is just doing very well.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure if you actually favor Viper right now. I can see him being favored in a few minutes, but if you look at DeMuslim's resource bank, that is an alarming sign for Viper, because Viper, he's still not 200 population, his resource bank is not spectacular, and DeMusliM, he has the larger army right now, a much larger resource bank, so the moment DeMusliM reaches Imperial, which will be in just a couple of seconds, I do believe, he's gonna get all those Imperial Age upgrades, and he's gonna have the resources to keep reinforcing his army. The only concern for DeMusliM could be wood. Everything else is perfectly fine. Looks like the military wing is still 30 seconds away. But Viper, right now, doesn't have the numbers to push this one yet.
Yeah, he's going to be struggling, but looking to try and break apart the defenses on the front line. Obviously, no stone walls going up just yet for DeMusliM, so it's going to mean that he's potentially subject to a little bit of an attack, a multi-pronged attack coming in over from this eastern side. Instead of going over to the west, where it's a little bit more fortified, DeMusliM going to be aging up now to Imperial. Look how many resources he's got banked here. He has got more than 8,000 resources in the bank, and compare that over to the Viper, who's not even 200 pop yet, who's barely scrounging together 2,000 resources.
Yeah, that's exactly it. DeMusliM had a larger villager count for a while, and obviously that's paying off. In the long run, Viper has 4 relics though, and that's a big deal. Plus, Viper is also controlling at least 1 sacred site. Actually, that's 2 sacred sites we're looking at. But look at those upgrades coming for DeMusliM. The left-hand side of the screen, every single upgrade. Elite Horseman, Elite Knight, Elite Spearman, Elite Men-at-Arms, Elite Archers, Elite Crossbows, and Composite Bows coming in. He has just clicked every single Elite upgrade that you can find in this game.
He is an upgrade enjoyer, that is for sure. But we now see Viper also not neglecting his upgrades, also going to be going for elite army tactics. So looking for a little bit more health on his men-at-arms, on his spearmen, a little bit more damage as well. And you can see the bombards going to be working their way through this keep. I don't know how he's keeping that alive. That is a lot of villagers down there. Look at the resource drain that's going to be on that. He's going to be running insufficient wood very, very shortly with that many villagers repairing on that keep. You can see he's struggling to try and keep it afloat. It is falling down. It's now going to be set on fire, and Viper really sensing there might be blood in the water as he continues pushing forward. Springald's looking to take down the back line. You can see the outpost, or rather the catapult. Oh my god, I've lost it. The trebuchet firing off, but decent numbers coming out for the Viper. He's got those elite upgrades coming through, and now the elite upgrades coming through for DeMusliM as well. First bombard going to be making its way out onto the field, looking to try and take out the bombard of the Viper, but that keep is going to be going down, and with that, this position is potentially under threat. We see Viper turning his attention towards that bombard, and similarly to the Chinese game, it seems to be a bit of a siege difference that might cause the victory here or the loss here. But now, all of a sudden, DeMusliM starts turning the table. Look at the crossbow numbers. They're looking very healthy for him. He's got those composite bows. We now see incendiary arrows coming for him. Lidakor, I think, is holding on.
Yeah, he's holding on over here. He lost the castle, but Viper's army, most of that was just the bombards. He didn't really have a standing army, like the human meat shield component in there. And DeMusliM's army was mostly crossbows, so he slowly drained down Viper's numbers. And suddenly, if you look at Viper's army, the human component of that is negligible. Most of that is just bombards. And DeMusliM, this is where all those extra elite upgrades that he has gotten start to come into play. He doesn't have to make unit transitions. He can just spam every single unit that he has in the game because he has full upgrades on every single unit out there. If he gets some siege in there to take this castle down, I think he has momentum to push Viper very back or very much deep into his base.
Yeah, it's incredible now pushing in underneath this town center as well, or rather this keep rather. But now these numbers are starting to look very, very healthy for DeMusliM. But at the same time, the defensive keep is going to help out in stalling out this push, and the bombards are going to start turning their attention towards the units. And keep in mind, those bombards absolutely shred infantry units.
Yeah, they do. Looks like the big gold mine is also being depleted by DeMusliM over here. You can see he's starving for gold. 60 villagers on that gold mine. And once again, DeMusliM is getting pushed back over here. Army numbers now looking better for Viper. Now we have some culverins being added by DeMusliM, some bombards also in the mix, hand cannoneers and biology coming in. But Viper, he now has the other big gold mine under his control, and he has 4 relics. So DeMusliM is on a timer here because he's going to start running low on resources soon.
You say under his control, but it's important to remember there was no keep up over on that side. He's got the resources for it in the bank, but still no keep. And ideally, you'd love to have a keep over on that big gold mine. But now incendiary arrows coming out, going to be dishing out plenty of damage. Crossbows trade quite effectively against the hand cannoneers. Somebody did the math on those, and I tell you what, it's actually not that bad, hand cannoneers versus crossbows. But now bombards as well as culverin coming out for DeMusliM. He's going to be looking to turn the tides of the siege battle as his villagers begin moving down towards that gold mine. We might have some tandem villagers mining the large gold. I know that we've got a fight down right here, but the economy is another thing that could interest people. Let's head down there, Vodka. I believe it. Go to the big gold mine, Vodka. We got some tandem gold miners, and that's a lot of villagers. If he realizes he's going to be able to outkeep Viper for sure there.
And Viper doesn't have the army to fight that right now. If you look at Viper's army, he can't really afford to spend units on that location, whereas for DeMusliM, he could easily send a couple of his horsemen to the south. Viper, he's at 69 military population, very nice, but quite a lot of that is just bombards. He's got some archers, got some hand cannoneers out there. Viper is also grabbing incendiary arrows now. But the question is, can he hold that large gold mine out there? He's got some backup golds on the north, but obviously the long-term story is that big gold mine.
Yeah, Culverin's continuing to move forward, and now Viper going to be under threat on that gold mine. He's not dropping a keep on the gold mine. He's just going to move over some crossbows, and that's going to deal with it. But a lot of units now coming out for the Viper. He begins to push forward down on the Culverin. These are expensive losses. 1,000 resources going down there for DeMusliM. Second one going to be focused down. We see the bombards on the backside firing down on the second bombard here for DeMusliM. He's going to be losing the second Culverin. Third Culverin going to be going down as well. All of the siege is now dead for DeMusliM, and Viper cleans up this army and now begins to push down. But keep in mind, he might win this battle, but there is a war on that gold mine that I suspect he won't be winning.
Yeah, that is the concern for Viper. He's dropping in villager count. And on the other hand, DeMusliM 140 villagers out there might even be a slight overboom because he needs some population space for that army to be added. He's down to 40 army as opposed to almost 80 from Viper. So 2-to-1 army ratio, and DeMusliM desperately needs an army on this battlefield really soon, actually, because he's now getting flooded by archers, hand cannoneers. And look at that perfectly balanced army for Viper. 15 spearmen, 15 hand cannoneers, 15 men-at-arms.
Wow. You know that he's one of those kind of guys, isn't he? He just likes to keep everything even. Everything's got its place. Everything must be the same. But a couple of units over here going to get cleaned up, and DeMusliM might have secured that gold over on the eastern side. Viper's still got backup golds, though, up towards the north as well as over towards the west. There are gold mines, but now players over towards the base of DeMusliM looking to try and fight this one out. Viper maxed out on 200 population. Plenty of resources in the bank to keep funneling in units. And now DeMusliM going to be forced back once again. An incredibly important game for DeMusliM to win here. It's so damn close. You can feel it by the skin of its teeth. And he's going to be trying to hold on. Horsemen now beginning to run out. Going to be met with a couple of spearmen. Not the fight that they want to be taking. Ideally want to get them up over here on these hand cannoneers as well as these crossbows. But now going to be falling back away from that position. Realizes he can't push in any further. And he's just going to be looking to try and solidify with an outpost. Potentially get a springwood emplacement. Maybe a cannon emplacement on that.
DeMusliM is setting himself up long-term, though, adding traders over here, and it looks like he knows that he's not gonna win this battle in the next 10 minutes or so. Meanwhile, Viper's got some bombards out there, and that gold mine could also be exposed. Viper is working towards those gold mines. Viper wants to finish this game in the next few minutes, and he might have the window to do that because that army is heading towards those gold miners, and that's gonna be a ton of dead villagers for DeMusliM.
Yeah, that's going to be really difficult. Basically cutting off the monster at the neck right there, because without that gold, it's going to mean he's got no reinforcements that are coming in that are going to be, super effective. And instead of going for the villagers, just goes for the mining camp. You're really cutting it off by the neck right there. And now DeMusliM getting absolutely shredded, but a lot of hand cannoneers on this backside going to be helping out. We do see that the chemistry is now in for our first player. Looks like we've got improved processing coming through as well for DeMusliM. So Viper's got the chemistry. I'm curious if DeMuslim's got chemistry as well. Do we have double chemistry coming out? I didn't see DeMusliM research chemistry just yet.
Yeah, me neither. That could be an interesting question to answer. He still would have a tough time against all of those archers, though, and Viper is winning this battle partly because of cost efficiencies. Archers are playing very easily for their price. It's such a small investment, and it's taking down very valuable, high-cost hand cannoneers that do cost gold for DeMusliM, gold that he no longer has.
Yeah, the gold over on that eastern side of the map is going to be under threat. We can see that the villagers have evacuated, and now DeMusliM going to be running away, evacuating those mills. Keep in mind, up towards the north, as well as over on the west side, there are gold mines that are in control of the Viper. So he is absolutely golding out of control. He might be down on villager count, but I tell you what, he's not down on gold.
And he's not down on army count either. It's double the army right now for Viper, and he's got a very good balance of economy and army numbers over here. DeMusliM is going to tap out. Viper takes game number 4, and with that, moves on to match point. DeMuslim's tournament life might be hanging up on that next game that's coming up.
Yeah, this is a very pivotal moment right now in this series because, as you mentioned, it could be the tournament life that is being decided right now. So on Abbasid Mirror, unfortunately, the 4 town centers are going to be losing against the 3 town centers, but you can't help but feel that it was a little bit of, I don't know, there was just, Viper's map control was just beautiful. He did a great job, just constantly harassing, constantly threatening. You know, we saw that nice little push from DeMusliM to try and distract him, but he didn't really buy much of it, did he? And in the end, I think it was the Imperial that really made the difference. We did see a big swing there. And then gold control obviously being another relevant factor.
Yeah, that's probably it. Like, Viper was so much faster to Imperial, and DeMusliM had to take some engagements before he got his upgrades in. If you remember that fight with the keep, DeMusliM had to fight so long to keep that keep alive. Yet he wasn't able to because the firepower from Viper was just too much. And then he decided to go for a trade, try to play a long game, but it never really materialized. In the end, the gold count is actually surprisingly close over here, but the wood count, that's a big discrepancy out there. Food and gold essentially identical, but wood 8,000 more for Viper, and that showed on the battlefield big time.
Yeah, it really did. We saw him just. It was very difficult for DeMusliM trying to fight back into that. But I mean, he did well considering his position. But yeah, Viper was looking very good. And now for another mirror match, we are going to be having a look at the English going up against the English. So definitely 2 civilizations that both of these players are very comfortable with, and one that is going to decide the fate of DeMusliM. But Lidakor, I got a question for you. If you have Twitch Prime and you use it on EGC TV's channels, do you support the stream? Yes or no?
Yes, that is correct. And guess what?
Do you get to see the ads?
No, you don't get to see ads because all the pre-roll ads are gone for everyone that's a subscriber to the channel.
Wow. So you're telling me if I've got Twitch Prime available, I should use it on EGC TV's channel?
That's a great idea. I mean, and it's free. Think about that.
It is free. It is free. It's actually free. You don't pay anything for it. Well, I mean, you pay for Amazon Prime, but they give it to you for free. They give you a whole bunch of stuff for free, actually. And look at that, Hymenator coming in with the 5 gifted subs. Thank you very much, Hymenator. Beautiful name, beautiful gifted subs. Always a pleasure to see your name gifting subs in this community. I love that name. It is such a good name.
All right, with that, let's start thinking about game number 5 that's coming up. So far, the narrative of this entire set was so close yet so far for DeMusliM. Game number 1, he had a reasonable shot at winning this. It's not like he was wiped out, right? In fact, for a long time, he was borderline leading. This game also looked pretty good, but he never really was able to turn this into wins except for the Hillandale game. And this is the problem that he's facing right now. He has the skill set to beat Viper over here, but now he's going to have to win 3 in a row in order to secure this set for himself. And that's going to be awful difficult because the upcoming game, I think, is the single harshest matchup that he could have gotten. Mirror matchup is never really ideal because obviously if you're trying to do the same things, you mess something up, you're gone. But Viper is probably the single best English player right now in Age of Empires 4. He's a master of this civilization. He has rejuvenated the civ. He has brought in a lot of new approaches, new styles. DeMusliM is no pushover with the English either, but this is a really difficult matchup for DeMusliM because I feel like Viper is probably the most successful English player when it comes to Golden League. In fact,